Hi, this is your Sewing Sherpa Shauna, and I'm going to show you how to attach a button by hand and by machine. So first of all, you need to have thread, and you can get a special kind of thread called buttonhole twist. It's a little bit bigger diameter, and anyways, I just use regular thread and I put it through the needle doubled. So I have basically, I fold it in half at the top and I'm gonna stick it through the eye of the needle, and now I've got 4 strands instead of just 2, and that means I only have to go around half the amount of time that I would have before. So now I'm tying a little knot in it, and yeah, I got my finger caught in my knot. And then I'm going to trim off the tail behind that knot. So here I have the bottom button that fell off, right? Sometimes when you pull a button, well, when the button falls off, you end up with a giant gaping hole here, you know, because that's why you're missing it. This time the thread had just broke. If you happen to have a big gaping hole, one of the solutions is you can actually put a button on the back side, and you'll sometimes see this, right? Buttons on the back side of your button. So I've got my knot, I'm going through, and that knot is obviously gonna go right through that hole of that, and then it's not even, I don't even know why I did that. Then this button, they're sewed on upside down. I go through the hole, go back down. Now I'm gonna catch the button. This button has 4 holes, but that's okay. I only need 2 of them. I only need to use 2 of them. Pull that nice and tight, and because I have 4 strands, it's like I went through twice already. Shortcuts. I gotta poke it back up through one of the holes. Now with buttons, there's this idea that you want to do a shank on it to keep it from getting too tight to the fabric. I think that only is important in, like, you know, when you're working with thick suit jackets, but I'll show you really quickly what a shank would look like. So what you would do is you'd go back down through here, but not all the way through the fabric. And then you wrap your thread around and you create like this shank, and that gives you a little bit of this kind of wobble thing. I got my fabric, I mean my thread's kind of loose, but anyways, and then I'm going to kind of poke it through that shank to stabilize it, and then I'm going to go back down, and now I've got to figure out where my hole is on the back side, there we go. Now I'm down here and I want to tie this off, so I'm again going to go through this button, but I'm not going to go all the way back up. And I'm going to loop around the button. Pull that nice and tight, and then I'm going to do it again. And that button is never coming off. Now, to do it by machine, of course, you're going to want to be threaded up. You want to have your machine on. Never go close. Foot towards the back, bobbin spinning counterclockwise, and so if I put this underneath the sewing machine, you know, the feed dogs go from front to back when you sew, and it's going to be pulling the fabric through. Well, I don't want it to pull through when I'm sewing a button in place, so my first thing I need to do is I need to drop my feed dogs or cover the throat plate. So the feed dog drop on this machine, oh, isn't there. I think it's on the back side. Oh yeah, there it is. So when I flip this, I'll take the foot off so you can see it, the feed dogs are going to drop down, and now it's not going to pull the fabric through. I'm going to put on my button foot. So the button foot is this strange little clear plastic thing with a sticky end on it. It's just one of the strangest looking feet. And the sticky part goes towards the front. And that big plastic back goes towards the back, because you have to have room for the buttons of all sorts of sizes. Come on, there we go, to fit under there. So I've got a really big button, and there's enough clearance for the back of this for it to fit under, so that's great. All right, so the next thing is I find where I need to put that button. And I have the hole here from where it came off. I'm gonna set it down. So all these have like these vertical buttons going up and down. So I'm gonna keep that theme, but then I have to put this in sideways. So now the next thing I need to do is I need to get in my zigzag stitch, because I need to go back and forth from one eye to the next. So my zigzag stitch is stitch 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, get that thread out of my way, tuck this under, drop the foot on it. And here's the part where I turn the handle always towards me, because I don't want to hit the button, but I want it to be centered on the eye. So I'm gonna go a little bit over. Sometimes you have to change the width so that it doesn't hit the button, but this width is actually pretty good. I think I'm gonna go just a little bit wider. There, and now I can go back and forth as many times as I want, but you will end up like with a big ball of thread under there if you go too many times. So there. Now we have these long tails, which are kind of annoying. And this is your opportunity. I mean, in the factory, they just let it go. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why your buttons eventually kind of ravel off. But you're in charge here, so you can take the two and tie a knot together. You can even like thread these up and bring them around to the back side if you want to, in case, you know, it ever gets loose. So see, now I just have a tiny little knot there. And I can do the same thing on the back so that those will not come loose. And that's how you attach a button by machine and by hand.